Okay, so one thing I want to talk about is, when you design, I'm not an expert in landscape design, but what I have found in my travels and in my visit to all these forests across, Finland, Japan, India, America, what I found is some of the things which have worked really well, which I don't find in India. One big thing is that every many of these places I went to outside of India had this nature play zone. So there was a play zone which had uh, elements of nature which children could come and play with. So just sticks, uh, just sand, rocks they could, make towers with, and cones, pine cones in certain spaces. So you can be creative. You don't have to be. It doesn't have to involve a lot of money, but it has to get people to interact with nature, especially children at a young age. And when I found them doing that, it builds a lasting connection with nature. So designing with nature, where people can play with nature, was a very important thing that I found. The second big interesting thing I found in design was that there were very good signage which talked about the healing aspect of nature. And at different points and parts of the parks or city forests, they had activity zones which were related to the senses. So a simple place which had a lot of, let's say, bird song, or which had wild berries, there were marks about, how to listen to the birds and how to be mindful of the bird song. And in fact, there were certain zones which were like in the Muir Forest in California. There is a silence zone. Within the forest area, there is a specific zone which is marked as a silent zone. So within that area, you cannot talk, and that particular zone is like a church. You're entering a church or you're entering a meditative space. So you can create and design for these zones where, even though there may be people around, but there will be specific zones which allow people to enter a slow meditative phase of mind, and for them to connect with nature so that healing can happen. The other thing I felt was something that really worked was how they were designed for sustainability. Especially the choice of plants and the choice of trees, which were very far-sighted, which talked about how those trees are going to survive over the long time without maintenance, without care, but how they interact with each other. So it's not just about planting something for the sake of planting. Oh, it looks beautiful, not because of that, but how everything is in relationship to each other. And by studying those relationships, you realize that it's not just the landscape, it's not just the flora that you're affecting. You're also affecting the fauna. Because with the native trees, you bring the native fauna. The native birds come and the native insects come. So it's a very integrated look at design rather than just designing for the human species. And I think finally the idea was to design for the senses, to incorporate all the different senses in it, not just the visual sense or the the sense of smell, but also the auditory sense, so including water in it, elements of water, wind chimes to capture the wind. So designing for all the senses, especially sense of touch. How do you have some trees where children can climb and feel with their hands? So incorporating these design elements, I felt, were what really brought the landscape closer to people, and what really connected them with the land rather than seeing it from a distance. So these were some really interesting insights and learnings that I had while I traveled to these different city forests or different areas. And all of them, many of these learnings you will find on my website, which is healingforest.org, in case you're interested. Session I want to say is about my personal journey on how this project has changed me as a person, and why I really got into it. So I started off typically in the corporate world with a MBA from IIM Lucknow, and then joined the corporate world. But within 5 years, I felt almost burnt out because of the pace and the disconnect from the natural world. And you would go sit in the office from 9 to 9 without realizing what season it was and what time of the day it was, never seeing a sunrise or a sunset, and being part of that corporate race. And then you realize that something is missing in life. And then when I decided to follow my passion of becoming a filmmaker, I was naturally drawn to nature and drawn to the stories that exist in forests and in nature all around us. So I traveled all over, and I found that on a human level, there is something which connects us with the rules in nature, and the fact that we live, and more in cities, we are beginning to live our lives in isolation from the natural world. I found that it is affecting our mental health. It is making us lose our connection with other human beings and other creatures which share the planet with us. And that's why we see a lot of issues in society coming up, whether it is climate change, or negligence to climate change, or intolerance, or anger, or anxiety, or stress. Stress is now linked to the top 6 causes of death, and it is a big thing globally. Stress is being declared as an epidemic. But if we can simply connect to nature and simply take some time out of our lives to reconnect with the natural world, I think it is a way of coming home, and it is a way of coming back to oneself, to a place where one truly belongs. So that's the learning that I found in my journey to capture the wellness or the well-being aspects of forests and nature. And I hope that you can take some time to visit your forests and nature places around you as well.